All right. So time for a another very power-packed session. Engaging, I feel it's gonna be something a lot of insightful and a lot of conversational worthy. Since the session name is Conversational Insights, First Strategy for Business Growth. And for the panel, I would like to call upon stage the moderator, Mr. Tabrez Alam, Chief Data and Strategy Officer, Bobble AI. Can we have a round of applause, please? Mr. Saumil Parekh, Vice President, Marketing and Growth, PharmEasy, our first panelist. Welcome, Saumil. Some energy, guys. Mr. Sanchit Chopra, AVP, Marketing and Alliances, EaseMyTrip. Welcome, Sanchit. Mr. Manikandan B, CMI Head, Meesho. Welcome, Mani. We will have Mr. Deepit, co-founder and CSO Inshorts, joining us in another few minutes. Meanwhile, we will start this session. Over to you, Tabrez. Can we have a round of applause? Some energy in the house, please. All right. Over to you, Tabrez.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I know, I think you've been through one of these sessions, but then, we'll try to make it sure that, we make it more interesting, and I'm happy to have Saumil, Sanchit, and Mani to be part of this panel. And, we'll be just talking about how, the competition intelligence or market research basically helps the brand to drive their decisions in terms of, probably the customer acquisitions, in terms of understanding the behaviors, the intents and everything. Just to give you a background, as per Market Research Society of India, in 2021, India has been the third market in terms of, the way they have looked at the market research or intelligence, with 2.5 billion spent, which is the third highest in APAC. And we are growing at a CAGR of 15%. And we hope that, in the next 5 years, it is going to double. The biggest part is the humongous growth that we have seen in terms of smartphone users in India. 600 million. And as per the ComScore, 90% of the people, they spend time, they consume internet through the mobile devices itself. So, our topic of discussions would be, because we get so much of signals from offline, online, how do companies basically, look at this data and intelligence and, competition analysis through various means and mechanisms, and how do they drive their GTM looking at that data. So, I would like to welcome everyone, Sanchit, Saumil, and Mani, and we're just waiting for Deepit. So we will start, in terms of, asking and going through the questions that we have. And, I've prepared a few questions for you guys, and, I'll have to take through the help of the mobile. So, the first question that I would want to ask everyone out here is, we know that customers are, the centers of brand planning, right, and growth strategy. So, traditionally we have relied on reports and, we have trade publications, customer surveys that we rely upon. Now, but how the advent of internet and, user notifications on the mobile has helped companies in terms of understanding their consumer better. So, we can start with Saumil, and we can just take this over. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So since we are in the business of delivering medicines, the customer acquisition. So I'll talk from the perspective of marketing or customer acquisition, right? So, customer acquisition is one of the most important thing, and the quality of the customer, I think, is paramount, right? So because when we are trying to acquire customers who want to purchase medicines, we're looking for customers who have some kind of a lifestyle ailment, because they are the ones who will keep ordering medicines with us for a longer period of time. Versus, let's say, people in this room who are maybe ordering medicines for 1 or 2, like, times once, like you fall sick or you have a pain. So when we're looking to acquire customers, let's say who are about the age of 40, about the age of 50, 5 years, 6 years back, if you would have asked me, the source for us to market these customers was, newspaper ads, or, using billboards, or, using traditional media like TV. But I think what we've realized is that increasingly, I think in the last 7, 8 years, these customers have started moving, online, and their preferences are very different from what we do as customers. Let's say, so giving an example of me, let's say, versus my father. My preferences on internet, on smartphone are very different from, what my father does on his smartphone. So, they like long format, they like YouTube, they spend more time on video content, versus like me, I want to have short snackable content because that is what the time permits for me. So using these insights, I think, we were able to actually map the customer journey across, 2 different segments. One is the buyer, which is like me, who purchases medicines for my father, and one is my father himself, who's the consumer himself, right? So 2 different strategies for 2 different kinds of customers with 2 different marketing communication. I think this is something that we developed over a period of time, and I think which has helped, in customer acquisition for us and improving the quality of acquisition as well.
Great.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me here and being part of this discussion. So just to provide an insight to what Saumil also shared. Today, the customer's journey is very important for any business, for any brand. And I think today, especially in the post-pandemic era, what has happened is that everyone has got their own universes altogether. So within a family, everyone has their own multiverses chalked out, and everyone have their own preferences. So the advent of mobile has become all the more paramount. The study of it, the analytics of it has become all the more important to analyze how to take the findings of it ahead, and to understand how best can we cater to each and every individual. Because what everyone today wants is a customized service. Gone are the days when we could package one product and provide it to the customers altogether. Today, everyone wants everything. And this analysis, then this understanding of mobile behavior helps us to dig deep down. Of course, a lot of it has been sent, and as an individual, I also lay a lot of importance when it comes to how we analyze, how we understand those analytics. Human intervention is all the more required, but yes, the basis of it can come from how we are looking at it.
Tabrez.
Yeah, Mani, so I mean, because you are closely looking into the mobile analytics and intelligence, I mean, I would want to hear it from you. I mean, Saumil and Sanchit has already given. I know that in terms of e-commerce, 65% of the transactions are driven by mobile itself, right? So how do you look at right now the perspective, the tools, mechanism that you have?
Thank you so much, Tabrez, and thanks everyone for being here. I'll start with a bit of an anecdote based on what Saumil and Sanchit were talking about. We are taking the large 600 million, 700 million population very lightly. And context is key for any insights, right? You start with that. An example is one of my colleagues was saying, he did not know swimming. He just couldn't swim and doesn't know the first thing about it. And then he suddenly went into snorkeling. And he said, no, I just had to go do it. Right? So that's a piece of information. When it gets interesting is when you know that he just got married, right? So what about marriage made him such a daredevil? I don't know. He just he just threw himself at it, right? So drawing from what they are saying as well, what has happened is in the last, say, 10, 15 years, and more so in the last 5 years, and even more so in the last 2, 3 years, our market has expanded, right? We are easily talking about 600, 700 million TAM, right? But what should we not take for granted is that all of them are the same, and the context is the same for everyone. That's probably the starting point at which I would do. I'd start looking at it, right? Like they say, when you talk to everyone, you're not talking to anyone. A small town, we have about 6,000, 6,500 towns, right? And then you start with rural and lakhs of rural villages. The market is open and you have easy access to them today, but that doesn't mean the job is easier, right? It's just the beginning, and then comes the tougher task of understanding. And I think every data source at our disposal is valuable, but it's only valuable when you know how to use it and how you start making sense of it, how you interpret it, right? I think we'll talk a little more about it, but I'll pass it on to Tabrez.
Yeah, Deepit, so we were just talking about the implementations of intelligence and analytics, consumer analytics. So what is your purview in terms of the Inshorts? Have you been using anything? What do you do in terms of understanding your users very well, and as well as competition as well?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on the panel. So I think being completely, so we don't have any transactional layer in our business. I think pretty much similar to Bobble's business, most probably. I think rest of you all have a transactional layer also going in addition to that. So for us, I think the value per user that we are playing in and is much lower, but the number of users that we are playing with is much larger. So what happens is that, say, an average revenue per customer for Inshorts kind of business is, say, in the ballpark $5 to $10 kind of range annually. That's because Inshorts is very, very premium in its TG, right? The second application that we've kind of launched, and it's grown to more than 100 million monthly active users, is Public, which is a hyperlocal social media. There, since it is more prevalent in the tier 2, tier 3 towns, and because of the nature of advertising spend in that region, although the wallet overall is quite huge, but at a user level, the wallet shrinks. So basically, we are talking about making $1 to $2 per user in those markets. And there is no way you can make $1 to $2 per user in those markets by anything that is, you can't do it without any kind of analytics. Like, it's not possible at all. And the biggest concern that emerges for our kind of businesses, like, how do you manage the cost and the benefit or the P&L at the unit level for any kind of data investments? Because data costs money. Like, any kind of analysis that you're running, any kind of server side deployments that you make, it's very, very expensive. And how to do it in a very, very judicious way is what we have been working on. Like, for example, if we have to suddenly give all our R&D engineers or AI/ML engineers access to all the resources, that will blow up our costs in a big way. And we have been a very, very P&L focused company right from the beginning, making sure that the retention is right, making sure that the leaky bucket, there's no leaky bucket in any way. So for all of that to function in tandem, we have a very strong cost layer also involved while making any kind of data investments. Like, we don't scale up any kind of experiments that will cost us. Like, the R&D budget should be minimized to 10 to 20% of your overall server expenses, and that's a big investment that we've made. And the dollar return of that investment is much, much, much higher because whatever benefits you derive, obviously it scales to the entire user base, but at the same time, you have not spent millions and millions of dollars of R&D budgets without no kind of recovery in sight. So I think that is a layer that I'd like to kind of bring in.
Great. So, but I would want to understand one thing. Since we're talking about advancement of, the intelligence of consumers, and we have two platforms. I mean, I would divide that into two platforms or two verticals. One is offline, one is online. Online again has bifurcation. We have web, we have mobile. So what tools are you using currently in terms of understanding both offline and online behaviors of your users? And how does that actually help you in terms of, giving you an edge against your competition? So, I will start with Saumil, probably, to say something about it, what is happening in PharmEasy, and then we can move to Sanchit and Mani and,
Right.
Deepit.
So talking about the customers again, so our customers spend good amount of time offline as well and good amount of time online as well. So traditionally, we have always relied on the traditional partners that we have, which is like the research surveys that we do across customers. But the issue with that is it takes a lot of time. I mean, to get actionable insights, and for a business, I think which has seen some crazy ride in the last 2 years in terms of the lockdowns happening, not our business going up and down. We just could not rely on offline insights to give us data. तब तक तो कोविड की वेव खत्म हो जाती थी जब तक वो insights आते थे. I mean, that was not really helpful, and that is why we started then going towards a lot of traditional mediums in terms of Google, Facebook, and a lot of other partners for the insights that we were getting, and more importantly on what the customer is actually doing on our app and actually what purchasing. So that really helped us build the inventory that we wanted to do. I think over a period of time, and we were better able to cater to all the demands that came in. So the first wave of COVID was absolutely hectic for us, and we were not able to do anything. But during the second and the third, when it happened, I think we were much better prepared because of all the work that we've done in terms of getting the data of what the customer is looking for and what could be the chances in which particular category. So yeah.
But I mean, you took the advantage of COVID, but Sanchit, I know the business would have been hampered with the lockdown. So you would have ample amount of time understanding, your data during that time, because now people would be just going out and traveling. I mean, we see T3 as a railway station now, so probably, that's something which is a good news for you.
So, that's a very interesting aspect, because even during the lockdowns, though the organization was there, the business was there, the dynamics changed altogether. From being into an experiential, product and services, we came totally into the service side, because people were, having the cancellations and the flight arrangements. Then the scenarios of medical tourism also came up a lot, and things changed rapidly. They were changing on a daily basis, and we were required to be kept abreast with the growing situation and with the change in demand altogether. Having said that, in case if I look back 20 years down the line, as I said, we are always into experiential products, and one has to physically go to a certain place to come to understand, okay, this is what I had seen and this is where I have visited. So earlier there used to be people going from one agent to the other, carrying a bookload of brochures, and now everything has cascaded into just at the palm of their hands. And gone are the days when people used to run after one agency. Now it's the other way around. We have almost millions and millions of customers, and roughly around from early 2000s, it has gone from literally 100% on offline to almost 70 to 80% on online model in last 20 years. And now of that also the bifurcation has come with the apps and the mobiles coming in, to almost 65% of the business is happening through through our smartphones. And with the advent of pandemic, the virtual tours, augmented realities, the VRs, started coming into existence, and that opened a new dimension altogether. Of course, it's no substitute for the actual thing. Everyone wants to actually go and physically explore it, but such were the times, and they enabled us to open a new dimension altogether. And then there came revenge tourism, and one thing that came up was the human spirit. Anyone and everyone after the lockdowns was like, I have to go, मुझे घर से जाने दो कहीं पे, and I need to travel. So that spirit started coming forward. International tours got abandoned. Okay, let me go to a domestic circuit altogether. Let me go to the hills where no one's there. It has opened up a lot.
But then my question was more about to you and Saumil is all about what tools, what platforms, what solutions have you implemented to understand? Because probably EaseMyTrip or MakeMyTrips, they all are doing the same thing, right? But how do you understand your user behavior? Are they really coming to you, or they're going to your competition? What is that they're looking at, right? So have you sort of channelized any sort of intelligence to understand the journeys, their spend times and all those things?
Yes, absolutely. So I hope, to pick up on your point that I hope they are coming to us only. And having said that, a lot of social media platforms like, the social media listening skills have, the softwares have come up where we could actually interact with people on a real-time basis. WhatsApp services where, one can communicate with the agency on a real-time basis. Also, apart from that, a lot of integration has happened onto the digital side where anyone and everyone can just pick up their systems and can start interacting with possibly the top honchos altogether. So yes, in that aspect, things have moved pretty fast. When it comes to the offline models, it's still more of a visibility aspect. There are still ways which we can actually kind of explore, but to have a CT attached to it is something that is being tracked upon.
So, I mean, Mani, you're an e-commerce, right? So everything happens on mobile and, online platform. So being part of that analytics, what have you been, what platforms and solutions you've been able to use so as to, track your users versus competition, right? And it has helped you in terms of, maybe increasing the footfalls on the website or on the mobile app.
Sure. See, from a e-commerce, there are multiple category entry points, right? You have, as it is, it's a horizontal platform. So you have multiple categories and then multiple category entry points. So without getting into the exact solutions, what I would, from an insights background, what I would talk about is, for us, like Deepit also mentioned, it's not just about acquiring, but acquiring consumers who are healthy consumers, right? And there's an acquisition stage where you're being prudent on who you acquire. And then there's a stage where you're enabling them to form a habit, right? You need them to come, you need them to get into the entire end-to-end processes, including returns and refunds and customer support, etc. So there's a habit formation phase. And then there is also, on the other hand, as they go through this, there are multiple category entry points for us, which means that, we need to know where they are, what they're doing. And the category entry points also vary so drastically from something like a completely functional need. I just want to buy, maybe diapers, right? And I just go, I know where I get the best deal, I have a subscription, or I just buy it from somewhere where I get the best deal, to also creating or cashing in on, say, moments of serendipity. I bump into something, I shape and mold intent, and I capture them, right? So the canvas is much, much wider for e-commerce. And I think on the other hand, it's not that we don't do offline based or the traditional methods of surveys also. I think there's a place for all of it, especially, or at least if I speak about from an e-commerce point of view, there is a place for all of it. I think knowing user journeys and benchmarking with competition, all of that is an integral part of what we do, right?
Yeah. And, Deepit, for you?
Yeah, so we use all third-party tools available to us like App Annie, Sensor Tower, ComScore, which are very integral to our industry. Where although all of those data sources typically have a big error rate in terms of the scale of the absolute numbers, but directionally, if you just know, as say 1 year back, 5 players in the market were you had actual data points about where they were, and then you track them using these third-party tools directionally how they are moving. Is it increasing for them, decreasing for you, or is it increasing for you, decreasing for them? I think those correlations emerge, directional correlations emerge for us very, very easily. Although I would say that a lot of data point doesn't get captured also in those places. For example, we saw a big kind of waterfall moment in the industry when, say, TikTok got banned, right? Nobody knew where exactly those users were going, because these third-party tools were tracking users at the MAU level, right? But actually what happened because of TikTok ban was time spent migration was happening. And time spent migration is very hard to track, right? So maybe a user was spending half an hour daily on YouTube earlier and probably 1 hour daily on TikTok, and probably then the user migrated to Instagram or YouTube, right? So time spent migration happened, but it was very hard to track. So competitive intelligence gets us to a certain point in terms of user base. The other aspect of competitive intelligence that we track very regularly is on the advertiser side. That what kind of advertisers are in market, what kind of campaigns they are running. We use data sources like Bark, TAM-ADX, some other tools also to kind of see if there is brand spending or not. But again, there is a layer, there is a wall that we hit kind of for our industries, because our platforms are mainly driven on brand advertising. It's performance-driven brand advertising for us. And then there is commoditized performance spending that also happens. So whatever tracking tools are available on the advertiser side, that is only that only captures the commoditized performance spending. It doesn't capture the direct deals that are happening, right? So again, we hit a kind of roadblock, and we get to see how the market performed only at the end of the year when the reports are released by Dentsus of the world and EYs of the world. But yeah, it's a very lagging indicator. So then the only thing that works is old school calling and making your networks speak to you.
You know, fantastic point which is raised by Deepit out here, that, you know, the time spent is very critical, right? When they come to your platform, they spend time. And, you know, if there's a bounce rate in terms of, you know, they're just abandoning the cart and they're just moving away. We need to understand that, you know, within our, let's say, sector, how people are spending time and how much time do they spend. I mean, I was just talking offline to Mani about it. Within Bobble, we have seen in terms of the app usage that if the user of Bharat or India first, right, they're more on Meesho's compared to Amazon of the world, right? We could see that time spent which is happening on their platform. Similarly for you guys, right, being your competition, are you capturing any user journey in terms of the time spent with other platforms? Like, I mean, without naming the platform, like, you know, you mentioned about Deepit right now. My only concern is what I've realized over the past 6 years is the sort of data that we have, the availability of the data. We talk about best of the best ASOs and anything, they basically work on sample data, right? They have a panel data. So they do not come with, you know, a huge base to basically give you a non-biased analysis of the user spend time. And, you know, when you tally it with your first party data as well, there's always a delta which is available, right? And it's very hard to make a decision out of it. So are you able to, Saumil, understand the user journeys across your competition as well?
So see, for a category like us, time spent on the app is not more important, but it's more about DAUs and MAUs. I mean, the person should open the app. I mean, that is more important, because if the purchase is very binary over here. Either you need medicines or you don't. Or even if you need only these particular medicines, you don't need anything else, right? So my biggest job for me is to actually make sure the customer doesn't go into any other app. He stays within my ecosystem. And to make sure that he stays within the ecosystem, we have to do a lot of things to push relevant content or relevant materials to him whenever I think he's not opening the app. Because purchase itself, medicine purchase is a very boring job. I mean, nobody's excited to buy medicines, you know, because there is no excitement as such and you're just going to buy what you buy. So for us, I think it becomes crucial that the session remains with us rather than the time spent, because I mean, see, we want to have a checkout purchase which is like, you know, very fast. And as I mentioned you in terms of cases like, chronic purchase, the person is ordering the same medicines every time. So again, there is no time for exploration and all of that. We did try to, build in some engagement, but then as for a category for us, I think MAUs and DAUs matter for us. And this is what we use generally, to keep pushing relevant, the homepage of a user will be very specific to the kind of medicines that you've ordered in the past.
So Saumil, have you created any sort of CDP in terms of understanding your first party data in terms of the time spent on your platform? Given an example, I was just visualizing the fact that, if let's say any medicine that I'd like to buy, right, probably I would have information about it, right? What is this medicine for? And that is where the education is. By the same time, the transaction is driven by a lot many factors, the price point, the availability, the delivery time, and all those things, because these are very critical. So do you look into that, building that first party journey of your users as to know how do they come, what do they buy, probably, refilling messages and all those things which are required?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, so we obviously do keep a track of, what is the customer buying. Let's say if a customer is buying a strip of 10 and he buy 3 strips. I mean, I know the medicines will get over in 30 days. So I think at the 20th day, we do remind the customer that, you need to come back to the system and all of that. So dosage, medicine, the kind of ailments the person is, ordering. And I mean, easier for us to even to cross-sell and upsell, because a person who is diabetic, there's a high chance that he also has some form of a cardiac ailment, or he's also suffering from, say, BP kind of a thing. So pushing or, upselling, those relevant categories or those particular products becomes very important for us. So what we have done is actually created personas for customers. And these personas are then, replicated basis, what is the customer ordering or how is the customer behaving on the app for the first time. Because it's actually, to be very fair, his journey doesn't change once, he's on the app for the second time, unless he's ordering for someone else. I think that is more important.
So Sanchit, do you have that external validation versus your first party data as well?
Definitely, because without that, for us to bring into analytics will be very, very difficult. Because how much time a person is, spending on our app, or even on our home pages or the landing pages of the various destinations. Because and of course, it's not a one-time thing, because there are a lot of factors that goes into booking of any product. For flights, it's very different. You just go on to what flight you want, what time, and you book it. But when it comes to holidays, it's a very different. It's like a family, decision altogether. There will be people sitting in, deliberations going on. And why did a person, not complete their journey altogether? That's very important for us to understand. And, we also kind of, keep a track. Where did the person leave their journey? Were they not happy with the product? Or was the price a factor? So we have our, people reaching out through AI as well, that do you need support in selecting a particular service or not? So yeah, so in that aspect, it's all the more paramount that the customer journey is well defined, and it gets dynamic with respect to the various products that there are, and so essentially, it's of course the customer rules. By the end of the day, we have to go with what they want, and there's literally nothing that one organization in the same domain can provide which others cannot. How we can make that better, how we can improve upon it for their own experience altogether is what we keep looking at. And there are various pixels that we also have kind of integrated into our domains, which helps us in analyzing it all the more.
So quickly, Bunny, your viewpoint.
Yeah,
validation versus first party data.
I think see, we also do, right? We have a lot of first party data, but we also tap into validations and benchmarking across. And in terms of metrics, the DAOs and MAUs, and as well as for e-commerce, it's also about the NMV and the lifetime value of the consumer. And the whole other thing is about engagement metrics, right? And as it is, engagement is crucial because a lot of window shopping also happens online. People are browsing, so I need to know where they are starting. There are two aspects to it. One is the more functional price comparison and hunting for deals that happens, right? Which is almost like I have a consideration set. I have an active consideration set, and I'm going starting with one brand and then I'm going to the other, I have comparable information, and it's there's much less inertia to move from one platform to the other. And that is a lot more functional that happens there. Where the journey starts and how does it transpire and where does it end, right? On the other hand, there is also this large aspect of window shopping that happens, and that's not just fashion, right? That's also into your home and decor. Even men talk about browsing through products, electronics and gadgets for weeks together before making a purchase. So engagement as one pillar becomes very, very important for e-commerce. Even more so because of a lot of integration of games and content pieces within e-commerce portals that happens today, right? And this is no new thing for, say Chinese brands and Southeast Asian brands. They've done a lot more on that. You have the Orchard Pinduoduo, the Orchard game. So I would say, apart from the DAWs and MAWs, engagement becomes crucial. We have a lot of first-party data that we are able to track, but also third-party validation and mapping the journeys are much more crucial. I would say that's a space that's, I would say at Meesho also, we're constantly evolving, right? There are new things that we're learning. There are things that are evolving. It's a little softer as well, if you think about it, because at the end of the day, you have a consumer who is doing certain things, and you're able to track, but you get pieces of data that you need to patch together to get the whole journey. Right?
Great. So keeping and respecting the time, one last question that I can throw, right? One last question. So insight to activation. Have you thought about it? Because we have two different windows where we get insight, then activation on happens on another platform. Have you been able to sort that within one ecosystem? That how insights are gathered, how activations are done in terms of probably user acquisition, awareness, branding, whatever it is. Saumil, anything? I would start with Deepit in terms of insight to activation.
It's a journey, I think. Every company, at least startups, would be somewhere in that journey. I think I would rate that from the insight to activation, once a user has already come within the, it's not a new user, right? It's a known user who has been in the ecosystem earlier. I think that is much faster. That cycle is much faster and can be done much better. But because personally, we don't track any personally identifiable information like phone number or email IDs to kind of go back to the user later. At least that's the policy we took till now. So for us, the cycle is much faster within the ecosystem and much more difficult if the user has already gone outside the system.
Yeah. Saumil, how big is the challenge insight to activation?
It's very difficult because I think we are relying on a lot of data sources to get these insights. Stitching them together is a journey, as I mentioned. I mean, I've been doing it for like 7 years now, and I still don't think I have the right answer to this. I mean, it's a process. I mean, with business changes, I think with the customer changes, and I think the buying preference also changing. I think over this time, I think it's a journey and it's a process, and I think hopefully the next 7 years I should have an answer.
Sanchit?
So, agreeing with both Deepit and Saumil over here. So it's, it keeps changing from time to time and with circumstance, and it has its own demographics and situations. But having said that, what we have been trying at our organization has been, there is an acronym which we have coined, and that's called OIRA. So it kind of translates into, organize your data and improve your services, reorganize and analyze. So as of now, in the current scenario, that's what we are actually kind of, following upon, and that has been helping us to understand how we are, progressing ahead.
Thanks. Quickly, Mani.
Sure. I don't know if it's my field to talk about it, but I think, see, insights to activation, the biggest hurdle that I see is, on one hand, you're talking about CTRs and CPMs and all of that. And on the other hand, you want to personalize the message or get the right person at the right time with the right insight. That becomes the challenge. The ROI takes a hit when you experiment. So we do continuously do a lot of experiments there. it is a challenge that I think everyone here also sort of acknowledged. I think that's the biggest hurdle that we're all working with, right? What's the right level of mix or right level of use of insights?
Great. I think that sums up, I mean, it's good that we have understood from different categories out here and sectors about the insights and what tools and mechanisms they use, and how important it is to understand your competition in terms of, creating your brand strategies. So there's way to go. We have a lot of things which are coming in the market, ASOs and everything. And I think the biggest challenge which lies in the market is insight to activation, because these appears to be in two different sectors, and to stitch them together, like Saumil said, is very hard, right? And I think once that is sorted out, I think we'll have a very good customer journeys which are mapped, and relevancy context becomes a key over there. So I would like to thank everyone for their great conversation and topics that they have brought up, and thank you so much. I don't know whether we have a time for Q&A or we can take it offline. Yeah. Any questions that we have? Yeah. Do we have a mic?
Hello. It was an interesting session, but I was actually looking forward for a particular answer, whether when we talk about analytics, when we talk about conversion, or talk about the target audience. There are two aspects to any kind of app, website, or business that we are doing online. One is analytics, which is there inside the app, which we understand, okay, this is the user behavior. This is how the user is staying over for a particular period of time, is interested in some kind of content, whether it is selling a product or anything, and whether the person is completing the user journey or is just going out. And the second one is the target audience, which is there outside the app, which is like still not targeted. You have it, the data and all, you get it from the third-party sources. I was just expecting whether anybody is using any kind of analytic tools, which is kind of CleverTap, MoEngage or anything, to understand what is the kind of user behavior, and then whether the conversion is happening or not. Because that gives you more kind of data, and also a kind of steps going ahead for the business growth.
Anybody would want to answer this, or?
Yeah, so I think we are using CleverTap, I think, in our business right now, and I think this is morely from understanding the analytics for the customer journey within the app. I think what we have not doing is, I don't think CleverTap gives insights outside the app, but I think, as I mentioned, right, I think there are two kinds of customers, and they have very, very different kind of, the journey within the app. So what a person is looking, what a person is buying, how many times he's coming back on the app, is he responding to our push notification, is he responding to our SMSs, emails, all of that. I think all of that data is collected, and we give a score to the customer as well. Basis, I think, what is his tendency to maybe to reply to our marketing communications, or what is his tendency to maybe even, let's say, to give higher discounts. I mean, these customers are, let's say, more they will only come onto the app if we give them higher discounts. So I mean, those personalizations and I think all of that has been done in terms of cohorting level that we do, and all of that is being done through CleverTap only. So all our marketing communications and all happen through CleverTap, and actually there are thousands of cohorts which have created within within the system to target each of them, because everyone kind of behaves differently. But yeah, I mean, there is a lot of personalization that we do.
So I can answer the first part for your question. I think that's what we were discussing, though the conclusion was not there. Why? Because these two aspects of insight and activation, they appears in two silos. Right. And it's very hard to combine it. Why? Because the insight literally is coming from panel or survey data, right? You don't have an actual customers. And when you are you've been able to identify the possible users which could be relating to your product. Now activation is happening on a different platform. So you basically now go back to Facebooks and Googles of the world to find such customers. So it's very hard to stitch them together unless you have a tool which comes in, which provides insight and as well as activation, so that you're able to understand the second part that the question your question had was, if I'm able to understand that somebody has MediBuddy but does not have a PharmEasy, right, and they're spending time over there. Now if I want to activate a campaign on these MediBuddy customers where PharmEasy can reach out to them it makes their life easy in terms of acquisition, and they will not be spending much time outside.
So I think there's a combination of three things. One is the programmatic marketing when you target the audience, wherein your competitors are already there. The second one is a kind of tracking of your analytics which can happen through branch or singular.
See, programmatic is a very simple word, right? It's all about how you run your campaigns, right? So programmatic has nothing to do with it, right? I would say that, understanding the customers, the behaviors, the context, how you reach them is more important. What platform you're using and what sort of technology to reach to them, it's totally different, right? Probably sometime SMS works, sometime notification works, sometimes a campaign works. So it can be intrusive, non-intrusive, whatever it is.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions that we have? Yeah. I've been told this is the last question, so.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So a single question that I have is, so at one point of time when you have already stabilized your business, so there is one stage when you get to know that, either through Facebook or Instagram ads or something, you have stabilized your market. So now what is the next step to reach to your TG or you to evolve your TG apart from the things that we know that, marketplaces doesn't give you the customer data. So we know that if the customer is sitting on Amazon or Myntra, that is RTG, but we don't have an insight of what that customer is. And then we want to reach out to those customers who are more likely to buy the brands like us, right? So apart from the market that we have, the TG that we have already stabilized in the business, what would be the next step to take it to the next level?
Anybody wants to take up this question?
So, although like D2C brands is not something we do, but we interact with a lot of them on a daily basis. So what we have seen is that a lot of times distribution is the problem, and a lot of time product itself is the problem. That the product that you're trying to float through these marketplaces or by running the advertising on various platforms, maybe the category itself is limited in India or in the Indian geography. So I think what you need to first understand is that is the categories limited in the geography? Maybe going to other geographies is possible to kind of target users in other geographies with the same product. The second thing that you could do is understand that probably the category globally is also limited. If that is not an option, then product evolution or identifying new SKUs is the next obvious step.
Okay, but my question was in terms of customers reach. So it's like you have a horizon of TG that you evolve. So for example, if it is a female which is related to any kind of age group is what the TG is. So at one point of time when you have already stabilized that TG, do you know that how you need to evolve your horizon ahead of getting covered more of that TG?
So I think this is where the other technologies are coming in place, which what we call as an data enrichment or identity graph, because so Deepit would have his own view of customer, right, from his own lens. What sort of content is he watching within their platform? Money would have understanding of what do they buy frequently, and then probably Sanchit would understand how what time of the year he travel, and probably Saumil will know that when does he order medication, right? Now that is where the entire collaborative approach of sort of fusion of first party data is going to happen. So everybody with their own first party data would combine their data set to understand the holistic view of the users, and they will help each other. And I think this is where the market is moving. I mean, we as in Bobble, we work with certain brands as well, right? In terms of enriching their data, probably their click-through data, because they would understand they are reacting to one product, but then what is their gender, what is their deterministic behaviors, where are they interested? Because it will help them in terms of allocating the marketing budget as well. So if my user is spending time on YouTube, there's no point reaching him on Facebook, because the best medium to reach out would be the YouTube. So that is going to happen. This is happening. The industry is moving toward that phase. So obviously, there are a lot of things which have been combined together. Like I said, ASOs, intelligence, demand-side platform, data enrichment. We are creating a layer in between, what we call as a data clean room, where all first-party data sets are going to come in together.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think also when you look at cohorts, even today in e-commerce, I don't think, except for a few cohorts, none of the players have been able to say that they've reached a saturation level, right? And including Meesho and others, there are a lot of cohort level unlocks that have been working on. These are 10x KRs that people have taken. They're working on it. So I think it's a combination of all the sources at hand to understand where we over-index, where we under-index, and what's our right to win in some of these. Multiple ways of cohortizing, all of that is happening, and I think that's probably a short answer to how we are looking at it, right? So,
just adding to that, I think also it depends a lot on the stage of the business. I think for a D2C brand, if they are stabilizing at 10 crore revenue run rate, right? Then TG expansion strategy might look very different from a D2C brand which is at a 500 crore revenue, right? Yeah. So stage is very important to consider.
Having what Deepit and Mani has just pointed out, because especially when it comes to the travel and tourism sector, expanding onto the TGs is all the more relevant. Some time back we were looking at tier 1 and the metros. Now we also understand that the next set of travelers is going to come from tier 2 and tier 3 markets. So we are actually making very concentrated efforts to reach out to them. Developing of new destinations, promoting them extensively, having support from various travel partners and hotel partners is all the more relevant today. There was a time when a certain beach destination was considered only to be fit to be traveled maybe during winters only. But today, we see that even during the monsoon season, it's a big hit, and all the flights are going chock-a-block. So it needs to be understood of how we have to expand onto the existing market, because in case if we become stagnant, then we are actually will become redundant very, very soon. Important is that we keep taking the next step ahead.
Wonderful. So I think, I hope we have answered your question. Thank you once again, esteemed panel, of supporting it and broadcasting your views. And any other question we can take offline. Thank you so much. Thank you, Neha.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much to the panelists. An excellent panel, I must say, though we ran a little long, but I guess people were kind of captivated. Now, thank you so much. We have to have